Okay, on this evening we're going to have a look at this Roksan tuner, and I think some of my other followers have remember me looking at a Roksan amplifier that I tried to fix for a friend of mine about 3-4 years ago. Never got anywhere with it because Roksan don't release information on their circuits or layouts or anything like that. It's all kept under wraps, and I got no problem with that actually, really. If you think about it, everything that the Japanese made or is always copied by the Chinese, so I don't suppose Roksan want their schematics and designs getting into the wrong hands, and I've got no problem with that. So this is a Roksan Caspian tuner, bought on eBay as a non-worker. Plug it in, there's nothing on the display, so I'm initially hoping and thinking it may be a power supply problem. I've whipped the back fuse out of the socket here, and that appears to be fine. That's not the problem. It does look like someone's had the top off it, which is slightly concerning, but I think the first stage is we're going to pop the top off, have a look inside and see if we can find anything obviously wrong. Obviously we're looking at power supply side, but I imagine I don't think it's a software controlled mains on off. So there's a power switch at the back to turn it on and off, which is good. So it's not microprocessor control for the power switch. So the first thing to do is to take the top off, have a look for anything that looks a bit nasty. Then we're going to see if we can work out why the power supply is not coming up. I assume it's the power supply. I'm hoping it's something fairly straightforward. I hope it's not a transformer that's gone open on its primary or something. Let's get the top off and have a look and see what we've got. There's not a lot in it, is there? Okay, towards your transformer, AC signal feed going into the board, some regulation stuff here, and it all feels very cold. So the first thing to do is we need to check to see if we've got any AC coming in here. This could have a thermal fuse in this transformer. I don't expect those to fail, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not exactly under stress, this transformer running this. This is the main board, obviously, for the FM side of it. Rubicon capacitors, which is nice to see. Good quality components. The main board is for the control panel is down here. So the first thing to do is I think we'll do some checks on the AC side of it, so we've got any AC coming in, and go from there. Alright, let's see if we can see any AC voltage on any of these secondaries. Nope. Nope. No. Okay, so looks to me like we've got nothing coming out the secondary of the transformer. So let's have a look at make sure the transformer is actually getting primary supply. So I'm going to just go straight across the transformer, which is here and here. I suppose I've got it. Should we just check we switched it on? I'm sure it is switched on. Let me just check this. Okay, so we're going across the main switch. Got nothing there. Okay, we've got AC volts now. So it wasn't turned on in the back. Okay, so let's just go back and check the secondary again. See if we've got anything now. It's amazing, every time you put these meters down, they're always reflecting so you can't see the display. That's good, got 9 volts there. Okay, that's a good start. Sorry, right in the way, 8 volts there. So as supply is getting to the board, so that's a good sign. So the next thing to do is we need to check bridge rectifiers and things like that on the main board. So at least the transformer's working. That's sort of like a relief, because that would have been one of the sort of things that would have been harder to replace or more expensive to replace. So we've got a couple of regulators here, just see if anything's getting hot. It's actually warm, that regulator. And that's warm as well. So we need to try and see if we can check some voltages across various points on the board. Now, as I say, because Roksan don't supply any information on their stuff, I've got to try and work it out blindly. I'll put the meter somewhere where you can actually see it whilst I probe about. I don't think it's going to be possible. It might be the best place you've got. Let's check across a couple of these capacitors. So we've got to obviously go to DC volts in the meter. You can see reasonably well there. So we check across a couple of these caps. Now these caps are possibly tantalum, or no, I don't think they're tantalum. Electrolytics, normal electrolytics, so they could be faulty. 100 millivolts across that one. That's bugger all. Okay, you've got no voltage across any of this lot. So I think we need to check maybe some diodes. Sometimes we've got some series fuses in here that could have failed. So I think what I'm going to do a visual inspection on that, just to see if, see, that's slightly warm, that's cold. So it could be a, it looks like we've got some fusible resistors here as well. So, all right, let me have a look through, see what I can find, and then we'll come back. Right, let's do a quick check on the diodes, make sure we haven't got any open or shorted diodes. So we're expecting a bleep from the meter in this direction. One beep. Okay, another beep. This one. And this one. Okay, it takes a bit longer if the cap's charging up. I've got some four more diodes here, or 3 more diodes here, checking these ones. Yep. Yep. Okay, and they're reversing. Nothing, correct. Nothing. Nothing. That's a bit leaky there, but it's charging capacitor up. You can't see the meter, unfortunately, but it's charging probably this electrolytic up at the back here. So that looks okay. But what I have found is, let me show you. I'll take this off because difficult to see. I'll give you a bit more light so you can see. You can see where these diodes are. There's also some resistors. You can see that resistor there, yellow, violet, brown, or whatever it is. They look like series resistors, and they look like they're open circuit. Now these are fusible resistors by the looks of it. So what I'm going to do is I think I might try and bridge those across and see if we get any supply. Okay, you see these test points here. This voltage point here has got no voltage on it. It's supposed to be, I think it's, what is it, plus 12 volts. So there's a 12 volt rail missing. So if I can buzz this out to that resistor, that would confirm that those resistors are open circuit. So let me check those first, and I've got to stop the camera now because I'm running out of memory card, but it looks like maybe a fault here. Right, what I've done is I've just bridged those resistors across. They're 10 ohm fusible resistors. I've just put some 10 ohm resistors here just to see if this works. Run it through the dim bulb. We've got a series 50 watt bulb in here, so we've got lots of protection. So if it draws any excessive current, you should be able to see that on the display. Switch it on and see what it does. Oh, the light just came on. Oh, we've got display. Self-test. The Roksan turns on the red light. Mode. So press mode. Okay, it's very dim. Let's give it full mains. Display's good. Let's just check these resistors aren't getting warm, so there's not excessive current passing. No, it looks good. Well, it looks to me like the Roksan might be okay. So the next thing to do is to connect it up to an aerial. We need to monitor this to make sure these resistors don't start smoking. If they do, there's something drawing excessive current. Now, you're probably saying, well, these fusible resistors, Simon, they've blown. There's a reason for that. Yeah, there may be a reason for that. There may be an intermittent faulty capacitor that's failing and blowing them up. But what it can be, these resistors can deteriorate with age and fail, simply because they're hot all the time and they just blow open circuit eventually if the unit's been left on for a long period of time. We check all the regulators. This is all very low voltage stuff here, so don't worry. But it looks like initially the tuner's working, which is a bit of a result. So we'll connect it up to the audio, up to the amplifier, and see what it sounds like. Right, what I've done is taken this board out. You know, we've bypassed these fusible resistors. Checking these 3 electrolytics here, they're all good, which is what you'd really expect for Rubicons, and they're not in a hot environment, there's no problem there. Now, These resistors are getting a bit warm, and they've maybe blown for another reason, and one of the reasons could be one of these capacitors has gone short. The other thing is, you saw the tuner actually works, but it has a lot of, not a lot, but it has a 50 hertz hum on the audio. Or probably 100 hertz, probably a second harmonic. So I'm suspicious of one of these capacitors has failed. I think I'm just going to shotgun these, change the whole lot. They're easy enough to get hold of. And funny enough, I've actually got a bag of capacitors I bought a couple of years ago. I'm just hoping, there's a 47 at 25. It's a bit bigger footprint, but I'm going to see if I can find a capacitors that I'm going to replace this section first. This side hasn't failed, but I've got a suspicion one of these caps is probably either leaky or failing, and that's what's possibly taking the resistors out. It's hard to know without going through it all. So quite a lot of capacitors in here actually. These sort of obviously used for power supply decoupling. It's always nice to actually if you can possibly get away with using even a ceramic. I mean, I know they're usually lower value, but these capacitors are notoriously unreliable, these sort of surface mount capacitors. These are the type that you find in Samsung TVs and things like that fail short or go open. But nothing was getting warm, so I think I'm going to change the ones that are at most stress, which are going to be the ones that have probably got any mains ripple on them. They shouldn't have a lot really because they're post-regulation, but I'm going to maybe change a couple of these capacitors and plug it back in and see what it sounds like. Right, found the source of the hum, and the source of the hum was simply because I had 10 ohm resistors across here, and they're supposed to be 0.47. I found another resistor down here, the same colour code on it that hadn't blown, and that measures 0.47. So that's what I've done. I've replaced it for the time being with just a link, and I might stay like that actually. Basically what these resistors are the cheap cop-out for fuses really. They are limiting the current slightly to the linear regulator, but the linear regulator, it's only going to make about maybe a couple of volts maximum to the input of the linear regulator. The linear regulator will be exactly the same, it will still regulate to the same output, probably 15 volts. So we just increase the input to the linear regulator slightly. That means it's going to run slightly warmer than it did before. So I've linked those out, that looks good, and it seems to be working fine. I've lost that hum. Obviously the reason why it was humming was there wasn't enough voltage on the regulator for it to actually regulate properly, so it was just seeing raw unregulated supply to the tuner. I've also, the knobs are all sticky and falling apart. Rather nice to find that I took them into work to remove the sticky rubber composition off them, and they were sort of like underneath that they were painted plastic, and this is a metal knob underneath. And when I stripped them down, they were actually like a shiny, sort of like slightly blingy, polished aluminium. So I put them in the shop blaster at work, and they've come up like this. Now this is more in line with the sort of like the later Roksan tuners, which have got an aluminium knob like this. I think it looks quite nice actually. I think it looks better than the plastic knobs. I think the plastic knobs look a little bit tacky. The left-hand knob is here, or part of it's here, because I was using quite a lot of strong chemicals to actually break down the paint and the rubber glue. I was using some gun cleaner and some paint thinners to remove it. I think some of it got on the plastic, and it's oh shit! Trying to repair that, throwing it on the floor, and. This is the knob I'm repairing. It cracked halfway through, so I've glued it back together, and it's come apart because I've dropped it on the floor. But that's going to be repaired in here, and then we'll get the tuner back together and have a listen to see what it sounds like. The alignment seems good. There was a slight misalignment of the discriminator. We saw it was slightly offset on tuning, but it looks like it sounds really nice at the moment. So I'll get this back together and we'll have a listen. Right, I'm going to have to talk over this music because it's instantly get a copyright, but if I keep talking maybe I won't get one. This is back together again now. Alignment's good, sound quality is lovely. Tuner's not particularly sensitive, seems to need a strong signal. It looks like a fairly generic front end RF amplifier. The rest looks like their own Roksan design. yeah, pretty straightforward to set up. Needed a bit of alignment on the discriminator to bring it back in. That seems to be the only adjustment available on this set. There's no adjustment for local oscillator I can see. Build quality is pretty good physically. It's actually a metal steel case. It's not actually aluminium. It's thick and it's heavy. Very solidly built, but there are a few flimsy things on here that I don't like, and that's one of them is this rotary encoder here. It's all a bit flimsy. The back of the rotary encoder is quite small and it's not particularly well supported. It's all worked itself loose a bit, so I've had to rebuild that and tighten that up. Selector switch here is okay, that's fine. The internal knobs have disintegrated. I've had to repair them. I don't know how old this tuner is, probably not much more than about 15 years old. What else is there? Yeah, I mean it's basically a nice sounding tuner really. In my opinion, overpriced for what it is, but people will pay a lot of money for a British built bit of gear. You've got to remember that these sort of kits are built in a sort of like a small industrial state, maybe somewhere in sort of southern England. I don't actually know where the Roksan site is. You're not talking about mass production of sort of stuff like Japan, like JVC and all the large Japanese companies. Yeah, generally I think it's a nice sounding tuner. I'll quickly run through what everything does on here if anyone's interested. This knob, all this knob is presets. And I like this actually. It's a nice way of selecting presets, because a lot of the Japanese amplifiers you've got just a row of buttons and you've got to press the button you want to get the preset, or if you want to say channel 16, you have to press a shift button and another button to work out which channel to get to channel 16. This one you just wind up the channels you want. At the moment it's slipping a bit because it's been glued together because it disintegrated, but you can see that's how it works. You just turn that and it just selects the channel you want. This button here doubles as the mono stereo switch, and it also doubles as a power switch. So we're in stereo at the moment. This is the annotation here for stereo. Press it again, red is mono, and to turn it off we just push and hold this button down, and obviously the tuner's gone off. So the tuner back on again. This is the mode button. I'm not sure if it ever goes red. Oh yeah, of course that's red when it's powered off. So green is on, red is off. Okay, yeah, and same with green for stereo, red for mono. This is the store button here. So basically you tune in the frequency you want, you press store, and you select, or you turn to the channel that you want on the selector to store and press store. Simple, very straightforward operation. There's no controls for anything fancy like IF bandwidth, high blend, or anything like that. It's basically these tuners are built, you know, for a person who doesn't like fiddling with knobs and buttons. All they want to do is listen to the music. Yeah, and it does sound good. I must admit, it does sound very good. I'm only testing in the workshop on the old Technics amplifier. It's not really a good idea of benchmarking a tuner. I'll compare it with my best tuner, which is my Revox B160, and see what it sounds like. But I don't think it's a million miles away from that, actually. You know, I mean, I've got a couple of, probably 2 or 3 benchmark tuners. I've got the Revox, I've got the Quad 40, FM4, that's a lovely sounding tuner. And also I've got the Pioneer F91, that's another good tuner. Got a number of good tuners, I suppose. But this is, yeah, it's nicely made, just a few shortcomings. There's fusible resistors, I don't like those. I'm going to fit something a bit better than that. I think we're going to go with maybe a 200 milliamp, 250 milliamp quick blowing fuse in series with the AC supply. I think it'd be a better system. If anything goes wrong with that regulator, we'll just pop those rather than those unreliable fusible resistors that just sit there getting hotter and hotter and hotter and eventually fail open circuit and just brings the unit down. Anyway, thanks for watching, and more to come.